So the Supreme Court has ruled against Andrew Cuomo in the state of New York for the restrictions that they had put on gatherings when it comes to religious organizations. Now, basically, Cuomo wanted to restrict the amount of people that could gather inside of a church or a synagogue or a mosque in order to make sure that COVID-19 was not spread. And the amount was very small. And the churches argued, no, this is, unconstitutional because it's going against our rights to publicly gather and assemble ourselves, Even though it had already been established in other courts that the right to assemble yourself does not just mean the church, that you have to go to the church building. There's Zoom and there's other places where people have church services. However, apparently, the restriction, allowing to open with restrictions, was not enough for these religious people, and they wanted to take it to the Supreme Court. Now, what did the Supreme Court rule? The Supreme Court ruled that you are now allowed to have any size gathering for any size gathering you want to, as long as it's a religious group. Basically, as long as it's a church service or a worship service, you're allowed to have any size gathering you want. So the Supreme Court ruled this. That means this is now the law of the land. So that means that in other states like Pennsylvania or New Jersey, Delaware, Montana, any other state that you can name off the top of your head, this also applies. So people are now allowed to have any size church services they want. Now, I live in Philadelphia. There's a church called Enon Tabernacle Baptist Church, and this is a mega church. You can see, I believe, 9,000 people in their church. Like 10,000, over 10,000 if you do like the standing room only thing. So you're talking about potentially 10,000 people could go to this church and worship and spread COVID-19. Because I can tell you one thing, like, I'm not religious myself. I'm an atheist, but I would like to think that if I was religious and if I believed in God, I would also believe that God created science. Therefore, I would use my common sense and not have large religious gatherings during a pandemic, But apparently, these people's faith is not strong enough because, or maybe they want to test their faith. Maybe they want to test their faith and see how much God will save them from the virus. Guys, this is really ridiculous. But beyond the fact that people are idiots for mass gathering indoors at any type of function, whether it's a church, whether it's a Muslim function, whether it's a sports event, no one should be mass gathering for any event at all. But I'm going to tell you why this is a bigger problem than just the COVID-19 pandemic. So the justice who decided that basically the tie-breaking justice in this case was Amy Coney Barrett. So Amy Coney Barrett ruled in favor of the conservatives and in favor of the religious people, over the common sense approach, which is no, you should not be able to pack a church or a mosque or a synagogue with 1 million people during a pandemic. This is common sense. If you do that, people are going to die, okay? They are going to die. Now, why is this bigger than COVID-19? Once again, you're seeing Justice Roberts dissent from the other right-wing judges and vote against this narrative. So, Justice Roberts, although I will still say when it comes down to it, he's a conservative. So, if it's a borderline issue between, the liberal position or conservative, he's going to go conservative. But he did do the right thing in this approach, and it seems like Justice Roberts at least has some common sense and can at least put his bias aside, if you look at past rulings, in order to, make sure that the right ruling is made. But clearly, Amy Coney Barrett has that bias, as do the other right-wing justices, because they ruled in favor of this church and this synagogue. Now, honestly, people should be worried. They should be very worried. They should be very worried about Roe versus Wade being overturned. They should be very worried about Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act, being overturned. They should be worried about all this because now, even if Justice Roberts dissents from the other conservative justices, there are now 6 conservative justices. They have a supermajority. And in a day where partisanship takes place over common sense, you could see more COVID rulings. You could see them ruling shutdowns altogether unconstitutional. You could see them doing, saying that social distance measures are unconstitutional. And that would throw out all the social distance measures across the country with, one vote. Yeah, this is dangerous because we have people in the Supreme Court who are ruling based on what their party tells them to rule by and not based off of what they should be ruling by. Now, you might say, well, don't the Democrats have the exact same problem? To a certain extent, yes. Because any justice who's, nominated is always going to be partisan. Obama's going to nominate someone who leans more left. For instance, he did that a couple times, and Trump nominated people who lean more right. So, yes, there's always going to be partisanship. However, what the Republicans have done, which is use dark money to fund justices and essentially tell them how to rule, now you don't even give the justices a chance to make up their own mind anymore. These justices, their elections have been being funded at every level, every federal level, every state level. And it's basically just legalized open corruption. So the only solution to solve this problem is for Joe Biden and the Democrats to pack the Supreme Court. Now, you might say, oh, well, packing the Supreme Court is not necessarily going to solve the problem because a Republican president could just pack the Supreme Court for his thing and a Democrat could pack it for him. And this is true that it's not overall going to make the corruption go away, but at least it gives us a fighting chance at fair rulings in cases. And rulings that are beyond just partisanship. And it's common sense, guys. It's common sense that you should not be mass gathering. Whether it's a church, whether it's a sports game, whether it's a concert. And look, I love concerts. I go to concerts all the time. No concerts during the pandemic. No mass concerts. Unless they're like outdoor driving or something like that. You cannot just put your party's allegiance or your political views above common sense and interpret the law based on your donor's biddings. And that's exactly what is going on. So, guys, you should be very worried about other rulings in the future. It's already begun. Legislation that protected trans people's right to health care has been overturned. So if you're trans, you can be denied health care in some instances now. And that's the law of the land. And this is something that had been settled in the Supreme Court before, where they said, no, you cannot deny trans people health care. And now they've denied them health care. So any ruling that's been made by the Supreme Court, whether it's Roe versus Wade, Obamacare, and personally, I think people should be the most worried about Obamacare. Because Republicans have been trying to get this thing overturned for years. Because most moderate Republicans are against abortion, and they want stricter abortion laws, but they're not going to come out for overturning Roe versus Wade, right out. Because they're like, hey, it's already been settled in the Supreme Court, precedent, blah, blah, blah. But there are a lot of Republicans who aren't principled, who would just overturn it at the drop of a dime. And now they have the opportunity to do that. The only solution to this is to pack the Supreme Court. We're out of options. If Republicans are going to start playing dirty and they're going to start funding judges to do their bidding, just like what's been done with politicians for years, year in and year out, each and every election cycle, then we need to start packing the Supreme Court. Now, what might be other solutions? Well, perhaps term limits. Perhaps a 10-year term limit as a justice. Perhaps new justices should be nominated every 4 years. There's a lot of solutions that are out there, but the immediate solution that can work right now is an executive order to pack the Supreme Court and add more justices that are left-wing justices. And look, if we don't do this, guys, and of course the Democratic Party is probably not going to do this because they're weak and they're spineless and they're good for nothing. But saying, hey, we're the good guys. We're for good things against bad things. Yeah, look at us. Like, they're the most weak party in American history, so they're probably not going to do anything. However, I will say that if Joe Biden were to do this, this might be the best thing that he could do besides adding a public option and putting us back in the Iran nuclear deal. Like, you know, this is like will be a monumental thing that he could do for our democracy, is restore some equality to the democracy. You know, because at the rate we're going now, our courts are going to forever be decided by partisan hacks who are paid off to make certain rulings. And this is not good, guys. This is not good. But, yeah, this is not good, man. A lot of people are going to die as a result of this ruling. This is not good. Not good at all.